Amid the economic uncertainty of the Great Depression, veterans of World War I were fed up with the government's failure to pay a promised soldier's bonus. 6 years after the end of the war, Congress agreed to compensate the veterans with a bonus, but it would not be paid until 1945. But in 1931, under mounting pressure, Congress voted to give the veterans half the promised amount in advance. But as the nation plunged into harder times, the undersized bonuses were not enough to put the unemployed veterans back on their feet. They decided to march on Washington to demand the rest. They called themselves the Bonus Expeditionary Forces and were led by former cannery worker and Sergeant Walter Waters. Waters led more than 20,000 disgruntled veterans on a mission to collect their dues. By May 1932, a small contingent of veterans occupied parks and condemned buildings along Pennsylvania Avenue between the Capitol and the White House. But as more arrived in the nation's capital, the bonus veterans were forced to relocate, building a shantytown headquarters on the floodplains of the Anacostia River. Tired and starving, 400 haggard veterans quietly passed through the streets of Baltimore the night of June 3rd on their way to Washington. The peaceful mob was escorted by police to a caravan of trucks ready to take them to Fells Point for food and rest. While Maryland showed hospitality to the weary marchers, tensions escalated in Washington. On July 28th, Secretary of War Patrick Hurley ordered the D.C. police to evacuate the bonus marchers from the occupied Pennsylvania Avenue buildings. The majority of the veterans stood their ground. Bricks and rocks were thrown by the bonus marchers, injuring an officer. Fearful for their safety, the police opened fire, killing one veteran and seriously injuring another. In response to the riot, President Herbert Hoover ordered Major General Douglas MacArthur to disband the remaining veterans. That afternoon, MacArthur and his troops advanced on the veterans, forcing them to flee across the 3rd Street Bridge to their Anacostia safe haven.
The cavalry clattered down Pennsylvania Avenue with drawn sabers. The infantry came marching along with fixed bayonets. All Washington smelled a fight, and all Washington turned out to see it. Streets were jammed with automobiles. Sidewalks, windows, doorsteps were crowded with people trying to see what was happening. From around the ramshackle shelters which they had built on a vacant lot fronting on Pennsylvania Avenue, just above the Capitol, the bedraggled veterans jeered. Lee McArdle, Evening Sun.
With the area cleared, MacArthur burned the Pennsylvania Avenue shantytown to the ground. As the afternoon faded into night, MacArthur marched forward. Ignoring 2 presidential orders, he led his troops across the 13th Street Bridge into Anacostia. The bonus army headquarters was reduced to a smoldering pile of rubble. At the end of the day, 3 were dead, 54 injured, and 135 had been arrested.